So welcome back to the channel. If you are new, make sure you have subscribed, hit the bell button and leave a like. Today we're going to do a full market breakdown. We're going to talk about the big pairs, have a little look at the situation, and this is something that I may be looking to do every weekend randomly, and I'm also looking to do something very similar on learning crypto as well midweek. So we'll talk about Bitcoin. I don't want to get too much into the news. A lot of information's battering us at the moment, a lot of mining kind of situations. There's China bans, there's now a UK FCA Binance ban. It's crazy, but realistically the Binance situation is a non-story. Just, in January we had these rules come out about derivatives and CFD trading, most likely to do with that. So don't panic. Honestly, people panic far too much, far too easily without reading information. Anyways, as I say, we need to talk about Bitcoin and all kinds of good stuff. Now, this is what I've had on my chat for a few days now. You've probably seen the tweets. Yes, people batter me with like, oh, you're talking rubbish. But realistically, it isn't looking ideal. Even today, even in today's market right now, we've had that, that drop, that rejection from that big, thicker black line, which is ultimately some levels of resistance, which is kind of obvious realistically as a strong level of support now, which is obviously acting as resistance. So when we talk about the fib here, it's kind of like a little zone level where potential short sellers are going to camp. What makes this go bullish and flip over to the upside is obviously we need to blast through it, and then it needs to find a level of support using most likely this black line. So basically we need to flip, but it needs to be convincing. It can't just be, some people tweet, oh my god, we've just broken through. Well, realistically, you need to wait for the candle closure. If we're waiting for, in my opinion, the most obvious situation is an absolute boomer candle, we needed to then pull back and act as support nicely. And then that can gear us up for a retest of 41k. It's still quite a big percentage margin gain. Realistically, if you're looking current price right now to a potential move to try and get in and around this region and realistically get quite substantially clear of it, you've got to get past the EMA 21. You've got to get past all this kind of nonsense here, this noise, and then it has to settle back and then act as support. So we're looking, it needs to do a big move over a few days. It needs to do at least a 15 to 16% move to clear a lot of the junk. It then needs to fall back and act as support. Whether that happens or not is another situation, but realistically we've got bullish divergences trying to get all over the place. We've got one here on the daily. We've had them for ages though. You can see here, right? This is a downside to it, so we may well be getting a move up soon to retest this level of resistance. But realistically, you're looking at all this situation here, literally to the left. You've got this bullish divergence here overall. But what's actually happened is it has pulled up, don't get me wrong, but it hasn't pulled up enough to indicate a market reversal. That's my point. And when you start looking at the fact of this here, we've got that, it's obvious, it's clear cut, it's textbook. But yeah, we pulled up to 41k, we rejected, then we actually formed a new low. So yeah, if you're trading off divergences, crack on, but always remember to take profits, always remember to do all kinds of situations regarding protection of your position. If we're looking at the bearish situation here, this is already set up bearish, realistically, because this is obviously the high, this is a low, we're pulled back into resistance, we're looking to go lower low. If we do get 28,688 again, happy days, right? If you're looking to buy in, that may be a good place to be with stable currency. That is a big market. That's 50 to 57% region of a market correction for Bitcoin, relatively high. Obviously, if it goes lower, 25k and maybe even 20,928, which could be fun. So my current position, as I've alluded to in the past, I'm in stablecoin for a part of it, my percentages. I'm looking to then jump back in. So simply that's what I'm looking at. If we're looking at other situations, by the way, just to give you a pointer, if we're looking, where are we in the current lines of structure on the, look at the weekly, actually, more normal time frame. If we're looking from this level here to the top and the overall structure of this absolute mentalness, the 618 of the entire structural move from March 2020 to literally the top of 65k, 27,000 is obviously a big level. So is it the bottom? Don't know. Maybe, possibly. Who knows? No one knows. It's probability. But if we're going to look at the next fib level, we've got 16,000. I'm not going to say it's never going to happen, but all I'm saying is That seems like a stretch, but it could also happen too. So you got to look at these situations. We need to find a bottom. Boys and girls, we need to find a bottom. And again, as I say, I'm as realistic as I come. I'll tell you how it is. I'm not going to bluff you. I'm not going to talk shite. I'm literally going to tell you exactly as it is. And this is what the analysis says. This level around this point, this whole region, around the 27k, around 25k, this extension level, and ultimately where these wicks have obviously been around 28k, absolutely crucial to what happens. However, we don't have much price history, so this is where my problem lies. This is what I'm going to say now. There's not much of a drop in terms of this point to this point because we've had multiple taps in and around where we are, right? So if we're looking at 32k around to 28k, we've been rescued 1, 2, 3 times in modern history. Most importantly, also not too long ago as well. However, go a little bit further than that. We've got a drop all the way down to 19k where we've had rejection. We had boom, 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 realistically. But there's probably a big gap there. That's going to be the problem. So structure-wise, there's a bit of a gap. So are we going to see 19, 16, 17, 18, all that kind of level hit? Maybe, who knows. But just be careful. I wouldn't say go long. I wouldn't say go short. Personally, if I was, being myself right now, I'd be on the fence. As I say, I'm not short on this market. I'm not long on this market. I'm literally looking to accumulate. My accumulation bags will be stablecoin into Bitcoin. Anywho, moving on to its next counterpart. This is where it gets interesting. Again, similar sort of setup as you've probably noticed already. If you follow me on my trades, I'm, very much a structural trader. I'm price action based off Fibonacci. Big levels here need to hold, right? So there's potentially a little reversal pattern showing here, but it looks incredibly weak. So what I mean by that is we've had a double tap in and around this region. That's always a good sign, but it looks weak. Even the RSI looks really weak. It's not even, it's like a double bottom sort of. The price action's gone lower, so it indicate a bit of bullish behavior that the momentum's sort of changing, but it looks weak as anything, and the candle just looks horrible. So bullish candle, crappy candle. So it just looks weak, and I've said this a lot about Ethereum. It's not the sort of coin to ape into when it's high. When it's overvalued at what it was at 4k, it's now 1,800. Now people are literally like thinking, oh my God, what have we done? So what could happen here? Well, it's not looking good, boys and girls. We didn't even get to a point of the extension levels of the fib. We hit levels of traditional support and acting as resistance from the past. So yeah, looking ugly, but realistically this could form a new low. This could go all the way back down to basically 2020 levels, or maybe not actually. No, sorry, 2018 all-time high levels is around this point where this extension level is. If I zoom out enough, I might actually, no, I won't be able to see it on this one. This is on the Bybit chart. But realistically, most people know roughly what the all-time high was around that point. So are we going to see a drop low? Is this level, this 1,700 level, which is kind of key, fail? But guess what? There's levels of support in and around this region, 1,500, sorry. And obviously you got these levels, and ultimately this level, I think this level is quite strong. When you look at this price action around this point, we've had multiple levels of resistance, multiple levels of support. It found a level of structure in and around, front runner, then off it went on a parabolic spree. Now, as I said before previously regarding Bitcoin, we've had a parabolic push in the past. We've also had a parabolic dump as well. Not much in terms of gaps. When it started getting into a level of confluence between where support levels have been and resistance in the past, it slows down a little bit. That's where the problem is. So if we are going to get some sort of like big sell-off in Bitcoin, well, we may well find that once it breaks below 25k, it might be good night for a while, and then we may actually see 20k and below 20k, which will probably unsettle a couple of people. I do apologize, but that is the analysis that I'm seeing. If we're looking elsewhere, and by the way, this is totally raw, apart from this setup that I've done a few days ago, what we need to look at and consider as well, this is only the Bybit chart, where is the entire structure going to potentially stop? As I said before, is this a reversal area? Is this a reversal area? Is like $200 a reversal area? We don't know. That's the thing. We can't predict the future, and that's where the problem lies. All we can go on is probability. If we're going to do a fib structure from the overall bottom to the top, We're getting pretty close to the 618 level right now in terms of where it is. So this could be a very, very strong level. However, if we lose this level, and we most likely are going to hit that $1,400 level, or maybe even $1,000, we've got to be careful. And as I say, dollar cost averaging, yeah, if you rate Ethereum, crack on, go for it, and dollar cost average as per your means. However, that being said, just be mindful, because it could drop lower, because this market sentiment has totally flipped on its head very, very quickly, and people don't like it right now. It's not nice. It's not a nice environment to be in. There's a lot of people getting really hurt. There's a lot of people losing a lot of money. But in terms of analysing it, you know, the way to get out of this market is when you start seeing these big, massive, on the higher time. Look at the 3-day chart is usually a good giveaway. If you start seeing stuff like this, where it's like really starting to get over EMAs, you should probably start jumping out the grave essentially, and just, you know, making a bed somewhere else for now. In terms of everything else, so just talk about it. Spoke about this previously not too long ago. Actually, I need to change the colour of that because it's doing my head in. Bear with me while I change this. Let's just change that to, there we go, nice grey. So with this I feel, this is what my plan is, right? And I've mentioned this a few times. I feel that BTC is going to go on a bit of a charge at some point soon. It's going to it may not be parabolic, it may not be crazy, but what I mean by a charge is I think it's going to push the altcoins lower. In terms of that, maybe not USD, because if Bitcoin goes up, the USD prices will reflect, but in terms of Satoshi value, would indicate that this is going to go up. I've talked about it quite a lot. This is currently on a nice little trend formation, starting to go up. We're above the EMAs on this, on the 3-day chart as well. And realistically, when we look at this like level, it's done its magic, it's pulled up, and we seem to have gone away up to these points here, and we've had a massive drop. So it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if we are doing a full reversal of this entire structure. We may actually see 60%, but we may actually see in the short term like 50, 54, maybe even 52, in and around this region here overall. Now, yes, this is sentiment based, but when you look left, you had multiple levels of trickery. The reason why this dropped so aggressively, and we didn't really get much gain out, we got some gain out of it, don't get me wrong, certainly from this period here where I was aping into altcoins down to this, maybe around about 55, 57, maybe where this line broke. That's where we had that crazy dog coin season where everything went ballistically mental, and that was where the problem lies. It was artificially kind of just pumping the market, and we had altcoins going crazy versus Bitcoin, and obviously this dropped quite aggressively. We're starting to go back up now. Higher this goes, the better the better prospects of you have a Bitcoin to then put into an altcoin, essentially Ethereum / BTC, or Ethereum, like RSR BTC, which I've talked about publicly, Polkadot / BTC, all those kind of assets there that you may want to accumulate. You can get a really good Satoshi level, which is kind of a great little bit of fuel. Moving on though, and talking about other stuff, obviously you've seen this. If we're looking at structure here, we've obviously had another sell-off around this point here. What if we actually do settle and we start getting money flowing back in around this level, 374 billion? That could be pretty scary, but for some people that's a massive opportunity. So this is why you got to plan your management. This is why you got to manage your risk, manage your money, all kinds of good stuff, because what goes up tends to come down, and the higher it goes up, the quicker it tends to come down. Anyways, what I'm looking at overall, just to give you a pinpoint, as I said, I'm waiting for these to dump like crazy, and they are right now. I'm waiting for RSR to do its magic as well. Looking at some certain key areas here, it's still quite a way away in all fairness in terms of this. If I'm going at current live prices to where I want to buy it, another 22% maybe drop could be quite nasty, but we have got levels of confluence here, so RSR could be an opportunity there. Anyways, let's have a look at some other coins and assets. I'm just going to pick stuff randomly. I know some people mentioned like Luna, for example. I'm looking at Luna with keen interest. I'm actually waiting. I have not pulled the trigger on this yet because I'm waiting for this to kind of drop even more. It looks savage. Let me just start this one again. Let me have a little look at this. So if we're going to go overall structure here, by the way, oh dear, this is, I need to do more research into this, but realistically I'm looking to see what happens. So this is starting to act as resistance now, essentially. Not looking ideal. See where it goes. So we'll see where the Satoshi levels drop. But it looks pretty foul in all fairness. So if I'm looking at this level here on the weekly and this pull up, which is pretty ugly, that's it on the daily. So we had this monster pullback, give or take. So we have this massive double top essentially absolutely melted to a new level, which is unbelievable. So what I'm actually looking at now is seeing how this reacts in terms of this dump here. And it looks pretty nasty. See where it goes. It's consolidating right now. I wanted to go, realistically, I wanted to go lower. Yes, I could get like a February 2021 sort of level if I wanted to, but I wanted to go as low as I can towards this, because I think in terms of like people getting excited about this, so if we go from all-time high levels down to heat, crazy, that's 60% drop. You know, this was like the next sort after I need, as I say, I need to do more research into it, why this kind of dumps so heavy. A lot of things have dumped quite heavily, but that has been quite aggressive. So I am looking, I have got one more coin and one more asset that I need to fill in my portfolio. Luna could well be on that list, so there's all kinds of stuff I'm looking at, but in terms of price action, that's been one of the most aggressive. Obviously looking at elsewhere, like obviously the likes of Cardano is actually held up pretty okay. It's obviously went back to March levels here, but realistically versus other things, it's not doing too bad. Even in the Satoshi range, I'm looking at this here. This is like a monster move that could play out here, by the way. So if we're looking at this, by goodness me, this is crazy. So if we're looking from this obvious level of structure here to this pullback, yeah, we're on our way back down here. We could well go down to this point here, but we actually may do a massive swing up as well. So if we're talking about dominance here, if dominance starts going up over the next few months, we may well find that the dominance will then fly down to like 30%. If it does its upswing, and then we may well find that these top quality assets, essentially, like even the likes of this, Polkadot, even BNB, even with all the confliction with it, we may well see some really aggressive pullbacks. But it may actually go into a huge demand zone, and then they may actually take off again if, you know, people start putting their money back into altcoins at the right time. And this is how, in my opinion, this is how a lot of the whales work. They look at the BTC pairs. They like to use their BTC as, you know, fuel essentially for these assets, because it's where the pure movement of any asset is. It makes so much sense, in my opinion anyways. I feel it does. It's a lot easier to kind of tackle. In terms of other assets, I'll cover a few more before we cut this video some slack. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit longer. Obviously, there's no face today. But realistically, there's a lot of things, like a lot of people are interested in. Like, I think Chainlink's undervalued, realistically, as you can see on the Satoshi range here. We may well actually find that this could go a lot lower. If I'm looking at the daily time frame on this, we've had this absolutely droppage, pull back up into the 618, and then we're on our way down. So this again was another one that I covered on Learning Crypto as a potential short opportunity. We didn't actually go high enough, so we pulled all the way. So I missed the original side of this, but realistically I was expecting us to kind of pull back in at this point, but we haven't. We've just been melting. So this was the one that I did pick up on a little bit late. But realistically, if you were looking to short, you could have actually looked at this 382 as a potential retest, but it didn't happen, which is a bit unfortunate. But we have gone right back into it, like an old level from like the start of the year where we actually dipped quite a bit. So this could be an important level in terms of this, certainly on the daily time frame, looking at that region. So we're not that far away from it. But realistically, when I look at Chainlink, I just think DeFi summer of 2020, crazy prices. Chainlink, it's like, it's just not happened this year. It's just not happened for it, which is a real shame, really, because it has, you know, it's an oracle. It's got some top developments and top partnerships and stuff. It just hasn't, you know, realized its price yet, in my opinion. The likes of Dogecoin is looking likely to melt. Continue melting, please. It's looking pretty good. Let it just go back to the floor. And you know, if we start seeing, let's just say, right, this is going to be very, very fictional, by the way. It might sound it, but it might not be. If we start seeing this price go right back down to the bottom, as in literally the floor again, buy a bag. Buy a little bit. Why not? If you're thinking this is died, it probably will get respawned again as anyway, you know, as any asset would at some point. Other things to look at, obviously, Zilliqa, I mentioned this a few times. Ethereum Bridge has been announced. This was the opportunity that I told everyone I was looking to sell a bit of my my Zilliqa for BTC to reaccumulate. We're currently on a nice little run. I'm really happy. Sold at roughly just around this level, so just below 340. We're currently down here, so I'm looking to basically get all my ZIL back, from which I've been selling all on the way up, which has been quite nice. So fingers crossed, making money there. Still staking loads, by the way, just to put that out there. But again, if I'm looking at this here, you know, what's actually happened overall, let me just restart this one. So in terms of the move, I believe, oh, let's have a look at this. Yeah, if I go from the overall structure here, right, so in terms of how I trade, by the way, just to give you a pointer, I look at the obvious. Something in my mouse, which is really irritating me. Don't buy an Apple mouse, shit. So if you're looking at this, this is like the big move. And if you then go to like the 6 hour time frame or something and zoom out, you can kind of like see it. But realistically, what's happened is we've kind of just dumped massively. and we pulled right back up into this 382 region, and this is kind of like, look left, multiple levels, as you can see by that big black line, levels of support, level of resistance. So it's an absolute monster level on the USD side, the 14 cents, and we've just absolutely melted since. So it's been quite aggressive realistically. But yeah, I tend to look at like the obvious. So in terms of this, there's nothing really much. If this does reverse, by the way, and you're looking for a next move, just to kind of give you a point, if this does reverse, and this is the bottom, for example, for if this wick is, we may well find it pull back up to the 618 level. Not so much 618 level, may not, but realistically it'll pull up the structure. So then what you do is you look at like overall, in my opinion, I just zoom out, have a little look. So what I'm seeing here is obviously this level here is potential resistance. And if you just draw somewhat of a box in and around that region, you may well find that that is kind of an important level. And we've already tapped it realistically on that wick there. We may well go lower from this point. And yeah, it's like little pull up and then resistance. So it may be interesting, but as you can see here, these are like obviously very, very random. These are just extension levels, but personally just look at resistance, look at where things have been resistance in the past or previous levels of support. This could actually drop much lower potentially, but if this doesn't hold, it's going to drop lower, obviously. So just look at your levels of structure. But if I'm looking at that, that is like a multiple level of area, and we've already tapped it. So expect the worst currently, because the market sentiment is shot to pieces, and that's just the way it is. You just can't really get away from it. It's just, if the market goes like this, you've got to be ready, you've got to accumulate, you've got to be ready for it. And actually, I'll leave that on my chat because it kind of looks okay. Happy days. So I'll look at one more before we go. Obviously it's entirely, I'll leave that on there. It's entirely up to, honestly, if I'm looking at doing this every week, I'll try and get like a list of things. One thing, actually, let's look at Matic. Covered Matic in a video not too long ago, and I mentioned that this was like the crucial zone. Like, we failed to make a new high. A lower high is always a signal for potential profit taking. And yeah, we've had this monster kind of dump. If we're looking overall at this structure, so from this low, from this high to this low, 618 levels, obviously. But we've actually had, let me just kind of unfathom this one. If I'll remove some of the noise here. So if we're looking at overall structure, let's look at where this move could be going, right? So again, look at the obvious, this swing. And as you can see here, we didn't even get close to where this level is. But if you look left here, go down to that 6 hour time frame or something, and you're starting to look left at where it kind of failed, you've actually got multiple levels of support and resistance in and around this region. So you'd probably be looking at that area anyways, and probably forgetting about this level here. You're probably thinking, you know what, actually there might well be a really strong level here that I might probably mark up. And what you do realistically in like any sort of situation when you're doing a chart setup, you just look at all those body closures on that line and go, right, I'm going there. Why? Because look at all these levels of like hitting, and guess what actually happens, right? When you look at this overall on the nose, boom. But one thing that did happen, and you've probably already noticed it, it hit it once, it melted down to this level, and it came back for a double dip. It came up for another one. So you might actually have two opportunities on this one. And obviously we're melting here. And I think 78 cents is likely. But I also think all the way down to this point is important. But look at where this confluence is between this structure. Huge, right? But the problem is, right, looking at this, you'd move your stop loss, you'll take your loot, you'll take your profit, whatever it may be. If you're trading it, if you're looking to accumulate, you'd buy it. And you're like, oh, sweet, awesome, awesome, awesome. It's going back up, it's reversed. Shit. It's literally formed a low, lower high, lower low. Oh, God, perfect downward structure, right? But you'd be like, oh, bugger. So if you were going long here, people do the long these sort of things based off like all kinds of situations, and realistically there's been no real sign of a reversal here. The RSI is no divergence there at all. Not looking ideal, even right now in the current structure, apart from this bit maybe, but not ideal. But as I said, I pinpointed this area as a $1 region where we're going to go to. We went down there pretty flawlessly, but I do think we want to go down to 80. I do also think we may actually see 35 cents as well, potentially around that kind of 35 cents level, which is quite aggressive. But when hype dies off in a market, prices just go down. It's just the way markets run. So we've got to find reversals, but there's no sign of it yet. But perfect downward structure, looking really good. But as I say, we're probably going to go down to 80 cents. Sorry, Matic fans, but if you're looking to accumulate, buy as low as you can. Why not? Good fundamentals, solid. But realistically, double tap of this one, because literally, bang, pretty pretty scary really when you think about it in terms of where this kind of low is. So this is kind of what happened was, so obviously this is where the structure is overall. Looking at that time frame, it's just absolutely crazy really when you think about it in terms of how it kind of reversed back up into a certain region, then obviously melted even further. But as well, even if you were missing that one there, you know, and you missed that first kind of obvious jolt back up, you know, guess what? Looking at that one, right into that region, off you go. But it's all about looking in the eye and looking and seeing it, because even that small little jolt up, it's actually pretty, both of them realistically, looking pretty obvious. But that's what I was looking at there on the daily time frame. It's kind of hard to spot it when you're looking at the naked eye, but realistically when you start seeing stuff like jolt right back up over a few day period, it's not a bad place to be. Anyways, hope you enjoy a little bit of analysis. Obviously fibs are very, very misleading in terms of what you can go for. That is the most obvious, by the way, going for that one into that level, very, very obvious. But realistically you can look at any one of these on any lower time frame and look for a potential entry at resistance.